Let's think of a bond that promises to pay a constant coupon for 10 years. And now suppose that we buy an interest rate swap in which one side pays fixed and the other side pays LIBOR. So we're going to think about this bond as we have this bond that's paying, we have the bond here. Okay. And now we're going to do an interest rate swap in which we swap LIBOR, okay, for fixed. Okay. The point of this, okay, is that what we're getting rid of the interest rate exposure, the duration exposure, and what we're winding up with is essentially a long-term bond that pays LIBOR plus S%, some credit spread. This is the credit spread, but it's flexible rate. The LIBOR can change. LIBOR can change over time, and we've locked in this S% rate. Okay, so it's a flexible rate 10-year bond, but with this credit spread on it. The reason we're doing the interest rate swap first is so that we can then characterize the credit default swap. Think of the credit default swap as a premium that you pay every year, okay, that the bond is still in existence. A premium not of S but of U. Okay. One side pays LIBOR plus U, the other side just pays LIBOR. Okay? Oh, no, it's the other way around, isn't it? No, that's right, LIBOR. What we want to do, let me just now show you how the this works over time. Time 1, time 2, times 3, time 4, time 5. One side of the credit default swap, one side of the credit default swap is going to pay LIBOR times the face value of the bond. Okay. The other side is going to pay LIBOR plus U times the face value of the bond. Okay. And if I'm buying insurance, okay, then I'm the one who's paying LIBOR plus U. So I have a negative cash flow in period 1. Every time the bond doesn't default, I have to pay U times the face value of the bond. Okay, because I'm receiving LIBOR and I'm paying LIBOR plus U, so the net is that I have a negative cash flow of minus U. That's right. Okay, and the bond doesn't default now, and it doesn't default in period 2, and it doesn't default in period 3, and it doesn't default in period 4, and then it defaults in period 5. What happens when it defaults? What happens when it defaults, this is by our thinking about a CDS here, okay, is that I am able to trade the bond for a treasury bond, okay, so that I get the difference between the treasury bond price and the value of the bond, which is the face value of the bond minus the price of the bond at time 5, so that I get the difference between the face value of I get this up front if it defaults. You can see how this set of exposures, this set of cash flows, follows from that kind of exposure here. This is what happens. This is what happens in the time that when the coupons are still viable. Okay. What happens when there's default is that we revert to that picture there. Okay, where there's Treasury bond, the principal payment here, Treasury bond, and corporate bond here. This is the point I'm trying to get at. This is because bonds are separated into these coupons and face value. Okay, there's this annual payment business, and then there's the terminal payment business if it defaults. Okay, this is actually how the payments work, which is not exactly what I'm showing there. I mean, if you were short a corporate bond and long a Treasury bond, it wouldn't necessarily all play out this way. This is the actual way they write the contracts. Okay. Conceptually, it's still very much the same. I said that the credit default swap is written as a promise to pay this thing here. What is this U? Well, you might think that it was S. You might think that it was S, the credit spread. Okay? And, so let's just say, I mean, it should be, if this arbitrage equation sort of works here, it sort of should be. Okay, so that's a natural thing to think of. Okay, but it's important to appreciate that credit default swaps are traded in a different market. Okay, and it's always going to be a matter of arbitrage. Okay, if it's not equal to U, if S and U are different from each other, okay, then it certainly looks like there's an arbitrage. Okay, that if it's not the same, you could either go long bonds and insure them, okay, or the other way around. Okay, short bonds and sell insurance, one or the other. So it seems like there's an arbitrage argument that S and U should be the same. Okay, so let's just and in fact that's how we calculate the price of a CDS. You calculate the price using these sorts of calculations, but this is assuming that there's no liquidity premium anywhere in this picture. If you enter into the CDS, you're entering into a promise to pay a certain fixed thing for the life of the CDS. The value of that CDS is going to, however, fluctuate, right, over time. Just like we saw forward contracts, okay, the value of that is going to fluctuate over time, just as the bond fluctuates over time, and it's going to fluctuate inversely. Okay, so you might buy this. The point is that you might buy CDS not so much as insurance against default. Okay, so the insurance element, but just as a way of getting risk exposure to the underlying bond. Because remember, I told you, why does the bond price change? It changes whenever this thing changes. Whenever that the discount rate changes, the warranted discount rate changes. The same will be true of CDS. Okay, that the value of CDS is going to fluctuate, okay, with the value of the bond. Okay, it's not just either in the money, you're waiting for it to default. It's not like fire insurance, right? Fire insurance you buy, and either the house burns down, okay, or it doesn't. Okay, either you get paid, okay, or your premium goes for nothing. Okay, not true here, because these are liquid assets, okay? And you can make money on them and then sell them, reverse your position, just as you can in any derivative market. So CDS are a way of getting exposure to credit risk, and you can just trade them for that. It's not, in that sense, this language of insurance is sort of a misnomer. I'm using it because people do, and also because it helps you remember which side of the balance sheet we're booking it on. Many people get very agitated when you talk about CDS as insurance on both sides of the political spectrum. Because if it were insurance, it would be regulated as insurance, okay? And it's not regulated as insurance, okay? Regulating something as insurance means you have to hold reserves against it, and there's all kinds of appropriateness standards and things like this. It's not regulated as insurance, okay? So some people don't want it to be called insurance. Other people don't want it to be called insurance because, in a certain sense, what makes insurance work is diversification, right? That the reason you can write fire insurance, okay, is because there's a lot of independent risks in these different households. And if you pool over there, you get kind of actuarial risk. It mostly all washes out, okay? It's not clear that credit risk is like that, okay? That they're like independent risks of fire, okay? There's a lot of systemic risk in here. I mean, corporate bonds all move together. These spreads move together. So the insurance, the other people get angry when you say insurance, are like the mathematicians or economic theorists who say, no, it's not insurance really at all, okay? We don't have to we can see it's just a swap. It's a swap, that's what it is, okay? And we'll just remember insurance to keep us, to make sure we book it on the right side of the balance sheet.